I'm joined today here on Primetime Local News with author CC Humphreys. We're going to be talking about his new book that's out now, One London Day. But before we get into that, can you just tell viewers a little bit about yourself, and let's get into your background a little bit.
You can tell by my accent that I was not raised here, though I was born in Toronto, actually. But my parents moved first to California, then to London, which is where my accent is from. I actually moved back to Canada in 2006, lived in Vancouver, and now live on Salt Spring Island. I've been an actor for way too many years, 40 years. About 20 years ago, I started writing as well, which was always the dream. Started with plays because I'm an actor, my theatre background led me to plays. But what I really wanted to write was fiction, historical fiction to start with. And so that's what I did. I wrote my first novel 20 years ago, The French Executioner, about the man who killed Anne Boleyn. And I've now on my, well, I hate to say this because it sounds like boasting, but I'm on my 22nd novel now. So I've written a variety of things. I write as CC Humphreys for historical fiction, and the latest book is also a CC Humphreys book. Chris Humphreys is my name for fantasy fiction. I've got two series out at the moment, the Immortals Blood series with Gollancz, and a series called the Tapestry Trilogy, also available. So I'm a combination of historical, fantasy, modern thriller writer, actor, and occasional swordsman, though I get out with the sword less these days for obvious reasons, because you can't, it's hard to keep, distance separation when you're with a blade. Though it's probably the perfect distance, actually, now I come to think of it. So
So getting into this new book that's out now, One London Day, can you just take viewers through it a little bit? What is this book about?
So this is quite a different book for me because most of my books have been set in the distant past. This is set in 2018. And it's really a novel where I explore where I'm from, London, but in the form of a thriller. It's called One London Day because all the action takes place on one day. It begins with a hit of a seemingly innocuous accountant in Finchley in North London. We follow the hitman. Then we go back a few days and follow the victim and discover why. He's actually doing the books literally on paper, because the only trail you can't trace these days is a paper one, for an organization, a rogue MI5 unit called the Shadows, these upper class English schoolboys who are making a fortune exploiting British intelligence through drugs and people trafficking and all that. So the accountant, we discover, has been playing both ends, and hence the hit. But it's an interesting book for me because it's not just got a single protagonist or anything like that. We follow the accountant. He's started behaving strangely because he's from a very ordinary, normal background. He's fallen madly in love with this young pianist who is in love with a hot young black actor who is infatuated with a Russian escort called Sonia, who's only in London trying to make enough money to pay for her daughter's cancer operation in America. She's actual ex-Russian forces. So we follow all these characters, and we follow the crooks who are the MI5 unit. They call themselves the Shadows. And we follow all these people through this One London Day to an epic climax off the Portobello Road.
Can you just talk about what kind of person would be drawn to this kind of book?
I struggle with that because the editors in London universally rejected it in the most glowing terms. Who's this for? They're very risk adverse these days, publishers. So, who's the protagonist? Well, there isn't a single protagonist. Oh yeah, is it a crime novel? Is it a love novel? Is it an obsession novel? Is it a spy novel? It is all those things. They like a single hook to hang things on. So people who are interested, I think, primarily in character, in characters who go through an extreme situation, maybe, as I say, ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. People who are, there's a good crime story at the heart of it. So people are into crime. There's a reasonable spy story as well. But it's really, I think, more about relationships and relationships within a very dark situation, what people will do when their backs are against a wall.
And that's why I asked, because when I was looking into this book, it seemed like there was a lot of different kind of niches that it could kind of fit into, and it wasn't just one type of book that one type of person would like.
Yeah, well, I agree, and that's what interests me. I've never been someone who likes to be pigeonholed. It would bore me rigid to write the same novel over and over again. I'd probably be more successful if I did, you know. And there's some very fine writers who just repeat a formula all the time. I'm not interested in that. You know, this book is so different from something like, you know, Vlad: The Last Confession, my epic biography of Dracula, which is a novel, but you know, follows one man. It's very different from my last book, which is, you know, high epic fantasy. I'm not interested. I'm much more interested in exploring character. That's what I've always, you know, I'm an actor. You know, I start from the point of view of character. What would it be like for these people to be faced with this sort of situation? And so to me, you know, as I say, I'd probably make more money if I could be pigeonholed. You know, people want the same thing over and over, cookie cutter writing. Doesn't interest me. I'm hoping people who have read me before will go, well, it's CC Humphreys. Let's give it a go. He writes well. He's always intriguing. Or people who've never read me go, well, this sounds like an interesting tale.
For people who are interested in getting a copy of this or some of your other works, how can they do so?
Well, my website lists everything, of course, and that's author chrishumphreys.com. So they can track it down there. I'm always broadcasting on Twitter, Humphreys CC, and that sort of stuff. But this particular book, because you know, the publishers decided not to go for it, so I published it myself, is available on Amazon in Kindle or print on demand form. But also I've done an audiobook. I'm actually largely making my living these days as an audiobook narrator for other people. But of course, I narrate my own books as well. So you can go straight to it's called Find Away Voices, which is the big sort of site, and you can order One London Day directly. You don't even need an Audible account. You can download it on your phone and listen to it, you know, on the bus or whatever.